I love Airsoft and I want to see more of it, so I need you to start making some quality gameplays. I've been creating gameplays myself for about 3 years now, and trying all sorts of different cameras, different setups. I've learned a thing or two, and I've made plenty of mistakes. So let's get you skipping those mistakes and get you making some quality gameplays. As you can imagine, you're going to need some cameras to start filming, and the most important one will always be your POV camera, the one that goes on your little cranium that's protected by a helmet. This is going to be your head cam. Now, my recommendations are very simple. Stay far away from GoPro as possible because all their stuff is unreliable, overheat, and has terrible battery life, and there's just a straight up better option out there, and anyone who tells you otherwise is either lying or hasn't really tried anything. So for something that actually works, it's the DJI Osmo. The action range is fantastic and just simply works. They also have a fantastic magnetic mount, so you can clip it on and take it off with ease. With this, it's got a magnet and 2 clips on the side, making sure it's deadlocked and secure. It's not going to come off, and you've seen how I run around. It's not coming off. I would definitely recommend getting their adventure bundle. This comes with the battery pack, which is great for storing all your extra batteries and keeping them all charged and managed. If you get yourself an additional power bank, you can also charge them all up whilst you're playing a game. Whilst I'm running them at 4K at 30 FPS, I find each battery lasts about 90 minutes. So you're most likely not going to need to keep them topped up, but I like to anyway. To attach it to your beautiful noggin, you're going to need an adapter, but I'd also recommend some extra arms to help position it further and make it just in the right spot. I've got myself a helmet adapter, and this is a short arm version. You can get these bridge versions, but I think that they look a bit fragile for me, and with me crashing about like I do, I think it might snap during gameplay. So I have a short arm one, and I use additional action camera arms to help position it properly like mentioned before. You simply take your helmet with your fast MT port here, and you put the adapter into it, slide it on in, push the little clip thing, and it should be nice and solidly in there. If your helmet does find that it wobbles around a bit, try putting a bit of scaffold tape. You should have some anyway in your kit, just to help create a buffer and get it right stuck in there. The harder it is to get it in, the better. For settings, I run them at 4K 30 FPS to match the scope cam, which we'll get onto later. I run the FOV at a wide dewarped. I also use DJI's ND filters on days that I feel like I'd benefit from sunglasses. It just helps make those colours pop on very bright days. But I certainly wouldn't call it necessary, it's just one of them nitpicky things. Now a scope cam. If you're going to want to actually see your BBs hit your target, you're going to want one of these scope cams. This is RunCam Scope Cam 2 4K. Bit of a mouthful, but it's fantastic for seeing those BBs hit their mark. They are, unfortunately, the only real option that's available right now, so that's the only one I can recommend. I would definitely suggest getting the 4K version though, just simply because tracking a 6mm BB at over 100 meters maybe is going to be nearly impossible at 1080p, so don't buy the rubbish that people are trying to push where it's HD. I truly despise this thinking. Placement of your scope cam is going to be really important too. The closer it is to the barrel, the less height over bore you're going to have, and it's going to be much easier for your viewers to watch them babies fly. It's also best to have it all the way at the front of the rail, because otherwise your hand might be getting in the way when you're gripping. There has been times where I can't see a target because my thumb's in the way. However, if you don't have a Picatinny rail all the way to the end of your pew, you might want an adapter to sit on your scope. An adapter like this with a Picatinny rail on top, you can just sit on your scope. You can just sit on your scope and have the RunCam sit on top. Again, they're going to have an issue with height over bore, and the BBs will look like they're doing a bit of a different trajectory to the real life, which might look nice on camera sometimes, but it can also be harder to track those BBs because the initial frames are going to be flying off. You can also come a cropper when you're taking shots and you've got a clear line of sight. Your BB's got a clear line of sight, but because your camera's sat up here, it's been blocked by some leaves in front of you and again lost footage. So I like to try and keep it as low as possible. Try using an extended rail or something like that. When picking your lens, I recommend getting the 40mm version, just because any shots that are going far and you're going to be wanting to use one of these, this is going to be the best option for that. However, if it's too close, you're most likely going to pick it up on your helmet anyway, and you'll just be much better using that footage. You can go for the shorter range version, the 25mm, but that's going to be more for your short, medium range type of CQB environments if you're not into like a big woodland site like I tend to play at. As for settings, I've set mine to 4K at 30 FPS, simply because it's the clearest image you can get. It's set with a wide FOV, a disabled top light because that will give you away, especially in the dark. Make sure to remove that horrid digital crosshair that they just have on by default. I hate it, just remove it. You can add one in post if you really want to. You might want to play around with some of the exposure settings and the sort of color options, but that's going to be more dependent on your environment. Leaving it default is going to be fine. As for your metering option, I like to have a centered focus rather than a wide picture focus, but that's a stylistic choice again. To do this, you're simply going to press this top round button, hold it in for a couple of seconds until it vibrates and let go. It should start flashing blue, like that, and now it's in Wi-Fi mode. You can now start adjusting the settings of your camera on your phone using the RunCam app. Right, you now have your two main cameras, and you're going to need a way to store all that footage, and that's going to be in the form of SD cards, and that's going to sit on each of your cameras. SD cards are often faked on marketplaces, so you've got to be careful about buying them from there. I would definitely recommend buying your SD cards direct from the manufacturer, whether they've been swapped or the seller is making counterfeits. However, it is better just to buy them direct from the manufacturer, otherwise you're risking having a counterfeit. You can't go wrong with SanDiscs, as they've been proven to me as the most reliable option out of all the ones I've tried so far. I like to use their Extreme Pro range, and I use the 258GB in my action cameras, and I use the 128 in my scope cams, as that is the recommended limit for the scope cams. You might be tempted to get a larger storage SD card, but you'll be paying extra storage for stuff that you won't really need unless you are chronically unable to transfer your files. A face cam is an auxiliary option for people who want to capture a bit more personality to their content, capturing reactions and maybe the guy that's sneaking up behind you. I prefer to use a Drift XL camera with a small camera to Picatinny rail adapter. I don't use their 4K option just because of the cost, and you don't need to be able to see my paws in 4K. The footage is also, in my mind, not really used for its visual appeal, so you don't need that 4K high definition stuff. This camera is chosen for its long battery life of 9 hours, and the aerodynamic design, making its form factor quite nice when it's at the end of your gun facing towards you, making it just less encumbering. I've used electrical tape to cover up the backlight and the front light because I don't know how to disable it. If there is an option to do so, an electrical tape does the job. Just leaving a small window to see if it's recording or not. File transfer to the computer. All of these cameras that I've just suggested do allow for USB to the camera directly to transfer your files. So you could connect each camera individually using a USB-C cable, other than the Drift XL, which uses a micro USB. Setting this all up at the end of your day is a bit slower than taking the SD cards out, just because the transfer rate is a lot lower. So what I do, because I find this process quite slow and easy to miss, I like to use a USB splitter, which has a range of SD card readers on them. It looks a bit funky, but I couldn't find a product that did exactly this, so I had to make something else up myself. Transferring the files directly like this is a lot faster and easier to manage for myself. By doing this, I can transfer all my files in parallel, making it very easy to check the progress of the file transfer. When you're only using 2 cameras, it might just be easy enough just to connect the 2 cameras. However, because I'm managing 4 to 7 cameras, depending on what setup I'm using and how many people I'm running cameras on, having a more robust system like this with the USB system is a lot easier for me. Now, this is important, file management. The number one thing you must do is organize your files. If you just drag and drop all your clips into a single folder, then editing or viewing your footage will be more painful than 10 sriracha covered toothpicks placed violently under your toenails and being forced to run a marathon. And if you just curled up in pain, that's what I see whenever I see a folder like that. So this is how I do it. It's pretty simple and it makes life very easy. So this is the way I organize my file. I have my assets for my commonly used stuff. I have my completed videos for my completed videos. As you can see, it's empty because I've completed them and moved them somewhere else. But then we also have our video files. Now this is what you want to see. Organization. First, you're going to want a folder with all your Airsoft related stuff in it. Then inside that folder, you want a folder with all your raw footage in. Then create a folder called template. This is going to be very useful for you to not fuck things up later. Inside that, you're going to want to create a folder for either you or your mates if you've got that, maybe some guests, whatever. But if you're just going to be you, then create a folder like this. In this folder, you're going to want your head cam, your face cam, your scope cam, your shoulder cam, your whatever cam, and that is going to keep all your files nice and organized and really easy to edit later. Whenever you have a day, just copy and paste it and rename it. Use the date. It's this year, the month. The current month is the 6th, and then you're going to want to put in the date. Fantastic. As you can see, there's a video very close with that date up there. I'm going to edit that soon, promise. And then you'll just name it, so like file management. This will just make it really easy for you to remember what you've done, when you've done it, and keeps everything organized by the date that you've done it. Great. Now, if you're recording all this high quality gameplay and you want to keep as much of it as possible, then you're also going to have to find a creative way to store all this footage, because otherwise you're going to lose it all. So we're going to get into a little bit of a techie, but bear with me subject. When you're editing your gameplay, you're going to want all the active files that you're using on a really fast drive. Now, currently that is a M.2, hence the name of this. This is, for those who aren't familiar with different types of drives, this is your hard drive, your SSD, your M.2. This is going to be your storage for all your footage, all your data. And that's the sort of the reverse order of which you want to have your active files in. If you can't install any more internal drives, then you're going to want to look for external options. Quite a lot of people will just quickly Google external hard drive, and they're not great, to be honest, because you're paying for a lot of that USB to the drive reader and all that sort of horrible stuff. Don't bother, I've got a better solution for you. I recommend getting a USB to internal drive adapter and an internal drive, as it can just from that be cheaper than buying an external drive, which is funny because it's exactly the same thing but different. I've now done a double check on that because things change all the time, and this was true when I bought all this stuff, but a most recent check has actually shown that sometimes they are cheaper. Just check both external options and internal options at the same time with an adapter. I'm going to keep using a hub with internal drives because it's just less space it's going to take up when I want to bulk store everything. But yeah, double check your prices. Things change. Great. I love being shown wrong in the editing process. Great. So this is going to be used to home all of your stock bulk storage. Any products that you have on pause, and any archived clips. I recommend buying internal SSDs in their most cost-efficient storage size as needed. Hard disks might be cheaper per terabyte, however, moving parts are less reliable and they're quite a bit larger usually, whereas an SSD is usually quite thin, and also it's quiet. I don't like to have a spinning disk next to my head all the time. The speed and of the data transfer from this type of drive is going to be less consequential because you're going to be limited by the USB port anyway, so just get like whatever's been off data storage price. Right, now you've got everything. You've recorded a great game, but now you just need to edit it. So do you want some tips? PG tips? PG tips? Yeah? Well, just remember to stay honest and have fun.